everybody? Welcome back to Talkin to Jake. Hope you're all doing well. Before we get to some NFL trying to stop him, I want to talk about the World Baseball Classic that's going on right now. We had some games yesterday. I don't even want to say last night because some of these games might have been on at six in the morning here, but they were played but in other countries it was a lot later than that. Korea smashed China 22-2. Oh my goodness! Wow, 22-2. The DR they beat Nicaragua 6-1. The reason I accidentally said signed instead of beaten because there's a Nicaraguan pitcher. His name is Duque Hebert. I might have botched that name. Duque Hebert. He's 21 years old. He, in order, struck out Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and Rafael Devers, three of the best young stars in the game. The Detroit Tigers saw that and gave him a minor league contract. So kudos to Duque Hebert for a guy who's a 21-year-old from Nicaragua, who no one's ever heard of. He's now in the Detroit Tigers system. He's still only 21. He struck out three of the league's best players on DR. So kudos to him. That's a very cool story. We'll see where that goes. Great Britain beats Colombia 7-5 in an upset. They came from behind in that one. Puerto Rico smashed Israel 10-0. That was a combined perfect game. You had four pitchers combined for a perfect game. And then the United States they rebounded getting blown out by Team Mexico. I still can't believe that. They give up 2 home runs to Joy Meneses in that game. They beat Canada 12-1, smashing. They scored 9 runs in the first inning, including a 3-run shot by Mike Trout. They got some solid pitching. Lance win a nice game, and now I believe they play Team Colombia next. They're gonna have to beat them, and then I believe there's some weird tiebreaker. It's like runs allowed per out or something. That could keep them out of that could keep them from advancing to the next round. They'll be the first time ever they don't advance past pool play in the World Baseball Classic ever. The United States team, but it is possible. But they do have if they got to beat Colombia. They took care of business against Canada. Now they got to beat Team Colombia. If they lose to Colombia, I believe they're done. So that's the World Baseball Classic. I'm not gonna go too much into that. There'll be more, the games going on today. I'll cover that tomorrow. That's the NBA scores from last night. Pistons over the Pacers, 117-97. Corey Joseph had 22 points. Timberwolves over the Hawks, 136-115. Kyle Anderson, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Yeah, triple-double. Trae Young, 41 in the loss. Heat had beat the Jazz, 119-115. Drew Ballard had 24 points in their rebounds. Grizzlies over the Mavericks, 104-88. Both teams were down guys because they're still without job. Dallas didn't have Luka. I don't think they had Kyrie Irving either. Josh Green had 23 points, 7 assists in that for Dallas. Desmond Bane, 23 points, 8 boards, 7 assists in the win. Rockets with a big upset over the Boston Celtics, 111-109. Jabari's have 24 points and 11 rebounds. He's the first teenager in NBA history to have 3 straight 20 and 10 games, so kudos to him. Third overall pick in this year's draft. Jalen Brown, 43 in the loss. Jason Tatum, he missed a layup as time expired. That was sent to overtime. So they're slipping about. You had 3 games in a row where they kind of blew it. You had the game against the Knicks that they lose. That's a game that they probably should have won. They got a game went to overtime. They had the game where Grant Williams, freaking clown, he says, "I'm gonna make both free throws," and then misses both. And now you lose to the hapless Rockets. They're slumping a bit. They have fallen at this point. They're a couple of games out of first place now, still second in the East, and still arguably the best team in the league. But last couple of weeks, they've been struggling a little bit. That does not bode too well for as we inch closer to the postseason. Warriors over the Suns, 123-112. Klay Thompson at 38 points. And the Bucks beat the Kings, 133-124. That was a great game. Giannis, 46 points and 12 rebounds in his return to the lineup. Domantas Sabonis, though, 23, 17, 15. Triple-double. Hey, Kings, this is a really good basketball team. They're not just some cute story. This is a really good basketball team that I think might do some damage in the postseason. By the way, John Morant has entered a counseling program in Florida. Still no timetable for his return, so I think that's the right move. He definitely needs to work on himself. So kudos to him for getting the help that he definitely needs. So he's entering some sort of program. And we'll talk about some college basketball. We got the first four on tonight. You get two games tonight, and then 2 games tomorrow, and then Thursday is the big thing. But I want to go over the coaching carousel for college basketball. We had Ole Miss brought in Chris Beard. This is a controversial hire. You know they made a coaching change not too long ago. They fired was it Kermit? It was Kermit something. I think his name was not Kermit. Kermit Davis was fired, and they brought in Chris Beard. So Chris Beard, he was at Texas Tech for a few years, did a very good job there. Was in the national championship a couple of years ago. He was in his second year of Texas. Then he had some very disturbing report came out that he had a domestic violence issue. Supposedly he like choked and beat his wife. The charge was dropped. His wife spoke out saying it was just some sort of heated argument, so she dropped the charge. But he was suspended and then let go pretty quickly by University of Texas. And Ole Miss just brought him in. It's a bit of a controversial hire. I would not have given him a second chance this quickly. He is a good coach. I mean, he took with Texas Tech. He was in the national championship. He had a couple of nice runs there, and he was doing a good job at Texas as well. But I don't think he should have gone second that quickly. But he's at Ole Miss. Georgia Tech made a coaching change. They had fired their coach Josh Pastner after 7 seasons, and they just brought in Damon Stoudemire. This is an interesting hire. He was an ex-NBA player. Was rookie of the year for the NBA with the Raptors in 1996, I believe that was. Has a solid NBA career. He's been an assistant at the NBA and the college level. He's been an assistant at the University of Memphis in 2 separate stints. He's been an assistant with the Memphis Grizzlies. He was currently he was serving as an assistant for the Boston Celtics, and now he joins Georgia Tech as their head coach. So first head coach position for Damon Stoudemire. That could be a guy that if this goes well, a few years down the line, maybe could get an NBA head coaching job. But I think it's a nice hire by Georgia Tech. You had Aaron McKee steps down at Temple. I'm hearing a speculated target is maybe Matt Langle was the coach at Colgate. He was an assistant coach at Temple from 2006 to 2011. And he took the Colgate job. He's done a really good job there. They've won their conference with ease 3 years in a row. I'm hearing that could be a guy at Temple targets. As for the other coaching change, you had this is another controversial one. McNessie State. Don't ask me where that is. I have no idea where that is. I've barely even heard of them. They hired Will Wade. So Will Wade, he coached at Chattanooga briefly. He was also at VCU, but most recently had a 5% at LSU where he did very well. Was in the tournament four out of the 5 times he was there, and 1 year was in the Sweet 16. But he was suspended about 2-ish years ago and was officially fired about a year ago for some very serious recruiting violations. He had he was caught. The FBI caught him on a wiretape, saying like, "Oh yeah, this is a really good effing offer," and saying, "Oh, it's not that effing complicated." And then like he tried to like change the terms of his contract to try to get a lesser penalty. And he got in big trouble. They're actually still investigating. I'm hearing in the spring they're expected to officially suspend him. I'm hearing it's not going to be as severe as we thought. So that's why I guess McNessie State felt comfortable bringing him in. He's a very good coach. I mean, he at Chattanooga, he was decent there considering when he was working with. He went to VCU, was there like 4 or 5 years. He did a nice job there. Was in the tournament I think almost every year or every year with VCU, which is kind of a mediocre program. And LSU for 5 years, he took a program that was already struggling and took them to the tournament every year. But his first year there, like I said, 1 year was from the Sweet 16. So he's a good coach. Just he has a lot of baggage. Couple of other firings. Western Kentucky fired, or no, not fired. Rick Stansbury stepped down at Western Kentucky, and Wichita State fired Isaac Browns, or two solid mid majors. We'll see what they do. Georgetown fired what's his name? Patrick Ewing. That's a big move. Ewing, of course, played at Georgetown. He's one of the greatest Georgetown basketball players of all time. Of course, he's an NBA Hall of Famer. Was on the Dream Team in '92. He's the greatest player in New York Knicks history. Hall of Fame, one of the greatest centers of all time. But he did not do a good job there. He was there 6 years. Did not do a good job. Had just 13 wins the last 2 years. They went like a year and a half without a single conference win in the Big East, but outside of this year has not been very good for years and years and years. The only the 2 or 3 years ago, only reason they were in the tournament because they had that Cinderella run in the Big East tournament. He did not do a good job. A typical case of great player, did not make such a good coach. I'm hearing, maybe Ed Cooley could go there. We'll see what they do, but Georgetown is, that program which was once a excellent program back when the Big East was truly the Big East, is not been the same in a long time. They thought Patrick would solve that, and that did not work. By the way, Syracuse, their assistant head coach Adrian Autry got promoted to the head coach position at Syracuse. So we'll see if he can improve Syracuse basketball. Another program which at one point was a dominant program, and for a long time has not been good since the national championship in 2003. They've kind of been up and down. They were in the Final Four as like an 11 seed a couple of years ago. Outside of that, haven't done really anything. Longtime Notre Dame coach Mike Brey retired after 23 seasons. Kudos to him. He did a very good job there. Hearing maybe Ohio State's coach Chris Holtmann is a candidate. I don't think Notre Dame should hire him. I don't think Chris Holtmann is a good coach at all. Hearing he could be Matt Langel from Colgate is also a candidate there. He's going to be a hot candidate. I mean, look what he's doing with Colgate, who I don't even know where they are. They play in some odd conference, and look what he's doing with them. So we'll see what happens. Texas Tech is looking for a head coach, Mark Adams. He stepped down. He had some pretty serious allegations. Apparently he spit on a player. Although it was an accident, he told the player, "I can spit on you whenever I want." Just very stupid stuff, disturbing stuff. His first year there last year, took over last year after Chris Beard left for Texas, and they were in the Sweet 16 last year, but they had a really rough year this year. So I'm hearing maybe Grant McCaslin at North Texas could be a spot. Also, Paul Mills at Oral Roberts, who's done a very good job at Oral Roberts, turned a program at school I've never heard of into a program that 2 years ago was the 15 seed and went to the Sweet 16, and there are 12 seed in the tournament this year. So what happened? St. John's fires Mike Anderson after 4 years. He didn't do a good job there. In 2019, Chris Mullins stepped down, and they were looking at some candidates. I think they considered Patino, but he was still going through all that stuff he was going through. So they kind of passed on. There was a guy Tim Cluse who was a hot candidate they wanted. I forgot where he was, but they made him an offer. He turned it down. So they kind of struck out on their top candidate. So they went and got kind of outside the box, and didn't really work out. I'm hearing Rick Pitino would be a really good choice there, but he's also going to be a candidate for other teams. So we shall see what happens. St. John's, they have not won a tournament game in forever. Since 2000. They've not won a tournament game since 2000. I wasn't born yet since the last time they won a tournament game. Another program that at one point was a juggernaut, and for a long time they've been horrible. They have not won a tournament game since 2000. I think they were in it a couple of years ago. It was maybe 11, 12, 13, something like that, but they lost the first round. They have not won a tournament game in 23 years. Something's got to change over there. And then we got Cal made a change. They fired Mark Fox after 4 years. He was terrible. They were 3-29 this year. 3 wins and 29 losses. Yikes. I'm hearing Joe Pasternak at UCSB turned the program that was off the radar into a pretty good program. Same thing with the coach from UC Irvine, Russell Turner. So we'll see what happens. But Cal, they got to do something because they've been horrible. And then there was a bunch of other ones like smaller, like some smaller openings. At, at American, Mike Brennan got fired. At Army, Jimmy Allen got fired. Austin Austin Pay fired NHA, and they brought in Corey Gibson, who's a former assistant coach at Duke. At Bowling Green, they just fired Michael Hooger. Bucknell just fired Nathan Davis. Buffalo just fired Jim Wistow. ETSU just fired Desmond Oliver. Georgia Southern fired their coach, and there's a bunch of others I'm not even going to go through. There's so many of these other small schools that no one really cares about. All right, let's get to stuff that people do care about. Let's talk about some hockey scores from last night. Avalanche over the Canadiens 8-4 in a blowout. I turned Luckman, big game, 2 goals, no assists, but he did break his finger in the game, so he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Another big injury for the Avalanche, unfortunately. Sabres over the Maple Leafs 4-3. Stars over the Kraken 5-2. Here are the NHL standings. Boston Bruins have already clinched a playoff spot. They have 105 points. Continue to lead the Eastern Conference. Got Carolina in second and 94 points. New Jersey Devils also have 94 points, but Carolina's got a game in hand. Toronto's got 88. They're in fourth. Fifth is the Rangers at 84. Tampa also has 84, but Rangers have a game in hand. Pittsburgh in seventh with 78. Islanders are in eighth with 76. Florida is 3 points out. Buffalo is 5 points out, as is Washington. And then Ottawa is 6 points out. So Ottawa's hanging in there. Detroit falling 7 points out, but they're just struggling a bit, but they're hanging in there. And then the Flyers are falling apart. By Flyers, about a week ago, fired their GM, Chuck Fletcher. Thank goodness, he was horrible. Daniel Briere is the interim GM now. And the Canadiens and Blue Jackets ran out that conference. Man, the Blue Jackets are so bad this year, 47 points. In the West, Vegas Golden Knights in first place in the really tight West. They have 88 with 87. The Dallas Stars. And third is the LA Kings at 85. And fourth is the Wild at 84. In fifth is the Seattle Kraken at 81. In sixth is Colorado with 80. Edmonton also has 80, but Colorado's got 2 games in hand. Winnipeg got 79. And then you got Nashville is 6 points out. They've been playing pretty well. They're getting back in it, but they're still 6 points out. Calgary is 6 points out as well. And the Blues are falling out of it, as has Vancouver, and then Arizona, Chicago, and San Jose. Man, San Jose is just falling apart. They're tied for the worst team in the West right now with the Chicago Blackhawks. This is so tight. The 8 playoff teams are within 9 points of each other. That's crazy. The Winnipeg Jets are the 8th seed right now. They're the last team in. They're 8 points out of first place. That's 4 wins. It is crazy how tight the Western Conference is in the NHL. Well, let's get to some NFL free agency. Still, a lot more deals since I last did this. Browns not Laken Thompson. It's the 11 on the Jets. Dalvin Tomlinson, 4 years, $57 million. It's a really nice signing. Browns have needed a guy in the middle of that D line, a D tackle for a couple of years now, and now they get him. Dalvin Tomlinson's a great player, great run stuffer. He's gonna help the Browns run even, which has really showed the last couple of years. That is a big pickup for the Cleveland Browns. Marcus Davenport goes to Minnesota, 1 year, $13 million. I think he's worth a fly as a guy. Like the Saints traded a future first to trade up to get him in the draft a few years ago. Hasn't really worked out. He did have a much better year in 2021. Had 9 sacks, had just half a sack last year. The Vikings trying to see if they can unlock his form from 2019. I mean, they still have Daniel Hunter and Zadarius Smith, but Zadarius Smith is not happy there. Apparently, he wants to be traded for some reason. We'll see what happens there. Seattle picks up Draymond Jones, 3 years, $51 million. He's a really good. D-Llama had a really good year with Denver last year. He can play inside or come off the edge. Really nice signing for Seattle. Who definitely needing some help with their pass rush. Draymond Jones will definitely help that. Denver, if he can get Denver, they've been on a spending spree. I mean, last year they added Mike McGlinchey. They landed him on a big contract. A new right tackle. They added Nate Davis at left guard, more Titan. They also added Ben Powers, he's a pretty good guy. Give him 4 years, $52 million. They cut Graham Glasgow, which saved him $11 million in cap space. He wasn't that good last year. So they bring in Ben Powers. So Denver, they are revamping the offensive line, trying to give Russ as much help as he can. At this point, it's got to be on Russ. They also signed Zach Allen, 3 years, $45.7 million. He's a former mid-round pick by Arizona. Had the best year of his career last year. I think had like 6 or 7 sacks. probably the best true defensive end in this free agent class, and he gets a nice contract from Denver. They need another pass rusher because they trade Robbie Chubb at the trade deadline last year to Miami, and now you lose Draymond Jones. They bring in Zach Allen. They re-signed Alex Singleton, 3 years, $18 million. He's a solid linebacker. They signed Jared Stidham, 2 years, $10 million. He'll back up Russ, and they also signed Chris Mayhertz, 2 years, $6 million. He'll be there probably a backup tight end behind Greg Dulcich. Sean Payton, we know how he uses tight ends. We know when he had Jimmy Graham with the Saints, we saw how he used Jimmy Graham. And our time throughout the years, Ben Watson was the guy who was at the end of his career was a mediocre player. He had that one big year with the Saints, and he leaves the Saints and didn't do it ever again. So Peyton likes to get the tight ends involved. Part of that was Drew Brees loves tight ends, but Sean Payton had something to do with that as well. So then now Denver's got 2 tight ends that they could use. They got Greg Dulcich, who kind of flew on the radar last year, was pretty good considering how dysfunctional that offense was last year. And then you had a guy, Chris Manners, who's, he's not a starting caliber tight end, but he's at least a decent number 2. So Denver's been adding a lot of pieces. Texans made a couple moves. They had Jimmy Ward, 2 years, $13 million. Of course, Jimmy Ward come from the 49ers, knows their defense because DeMarco Ryans, the new head coach, was the D coordinator there. They also trade for Shaq Mason. They make a trade with the Bucks. They gave up a 6th round pick and they sent a 7th. They packed a 7th with Mason, so didn't give up anything for him. He's a solid guard. Tampa's looking to move him for some salary cap purposes. So they get a nice piece to add to that offensive line. Falcons have been busy. They added Caden Ellis, 3 years, $21.5 million, from Saints linebacker. Also added Jesse Bates, 4 years, $64 million. I love that move. He's a really good safety, Jesse Bates. He goes to the Falcons. Falcons trying to upgrade that defense, which is something they definitely need to do. Eric Kendricks, who was let go by the Vikings as a salary cap casualty, still a really good linebacker, goes to the Chargers, 2 years, $13.5 million. Really good move for the Chargers. Aren't paying him a lot, aren't even paying him just under $7 million a year. He had 89 tackles last year. He's still a really good, solid starting inside linebacker. And then you have him. You got Kenneth Murray from our first round a couple years ago there. Chargers defense is what held them back last year, along with some injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Brandon Staley's coaching obviously is in question. We'll see what happens, but nice move to pick up Eric Kendricks. New York Giants pick up Bami Okekere, 4 years, $40 million. Really good sign from the Giants. He's a really good linebacker that the Giants pick up. They need someone in the middle of that defense, and they get one. Really good signing from the New York Giants. The Bucks re-signed Jamal Dean, $4.52 million. Really good signing. He's a really good cover corner. Oh, where they found the money to sign him. They came in over the cap. I don't know where they found $13 a year to sign him, but they got it done. Kudos to Jason Light and the Bucks for getting that done. You had Jameis Winston will be a Saint. It was looking like they were going to cut him. They offered him a restructured deal. I think he was going to look. I think at one point he was leaning towards, asking to be released so he can try to be a star. But I think he saw that he wasn't going to be able to be a starter, so he'll make $8 million next year on a 1-year deal. He was set to make just under $13 million, so he takes a pay cut to stay at the Saints. He'll back up Derek Carr, and then next year he'll be on the open market. Dolphins had David Long, 2 years, $11 million. He's a solid linebacker. Was on the Titans last year, so Miami adds him. Titans, speaking of Titans, they had Andre Dillier, 3 years, $20 million. Is a young lineman, was drafted a few years ago by, so he was a first-round pick. Hasn't really worked out too well. He was also blocked by by Lane Johnson for first Jason Peters. But he joins the Titans, see if they can kind of find something there. David Onyemata also, the Falcons add David Onyemata, 3 years, $35 million. He's a solid D tackle. Saints have also a lot of pieces on defense. They lose Onyemata, that they lost Caden Ellis, lost Davenport. So what happens? They were already over the cap, and then they just paid Derek Carr $37 million a year. I don't know what you expect to happen. Steelers signed Patrick Pearson, 2 years, $14 million. Another nice sign. They lost Cam Sutton yesterday. He had a nice year last year. He goes to Detroit. Pearson's a little older. Isn't like a top corner in the league anymore, but he had a really good year last year. Still a solid cover corner. And they add him to their defense. 49ers added Sam Darnold 1 year deal. I mean, he's a complete first round bust from our third overall pick in 2018 by the Jets, but he's got a bunch of starting experience. You know, obviously, Sylvan Liners has so many injuries to the quarterbacks last year. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't there. Got Brock Purdy and Trey Lance coming off injury. They need as much depth as they can get. So Sam Darnold can probably suffice as a third string quarterback. So they had him for some depth. Bengals re-signed Jermaine Pratt, 3 years, 21 million. He's a solid linebacker. They bring him back. We have a couple of kicker deals. We'll give some love to the kickers. Just re-signed Greg Zuerlein, 1 year, $3.5 million. He had a nice year for the Jets last year. And co-signed Matt Gay from a Rams kicker, 4 years, $22 million. So he got a big deal for a kicker. The Colts kicking situation was a little bit cloudy last year. You had Rodrigo Blankenship. He got off to a tough start, and then they cut him, and then they kind of bounced around between kickers. So now they have a very good, solid kicker. Probably the best kicker they've had since Adam Vinatieri. That guy is a very good kicker from a Los Angeles Ram. Before I was on the Tampa Bay Bucks. You have Shai Teller goes to Carolina, 3 years, $19.5 million. A lot of people may not have heard of him. But he had a nice year last year. Had like 46 tackles, 2 sacks. He had 5 pass defenses. He's a solid run stopper, very good against the run. Carolina also adds Von Bell. The contract terms have not been released for that, but he's a very good safety. So the Bengals lost both their safeties. So that's a nice piece for Carolina to pick up. Browns picked up Ogbania Okonkoro. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. He's a pass rusher who came on late last year for Houston. He ended up taking over a starting role in the second half of the year. Had 5 sacks last year. Cleveland signed him trying to see if they can unlock his full potential. We got a glimpse last year. Arizona re-signed Calvin Beachum 2 year deal. Was a solid off the tackle. He was the right tackle last year. But he recently came out and said that Kyler Murray needs to grow up. So kudos to him for speaking out on Kyler, who clearly has some maturity issues. So he's back in Arizona. Giants brought in Raheem Nunez Roaches. That guy's his name. On 2 year, he's a D tackle. Don't know the money terms yet, but Giants had him trying to beef up their defense. Carolina Panthers re-signed Bradley Bozeman, 3 years, $18 million. He's their center, so he goes back. Yeah, DeMarcus Walker goes to the Bears, 2 years, $14 million. This kind of one of the rare. He had a nice year for the Titans. Titans, losing Harold Landry right before the season to a torn ACL was a huge loss. Had some trouble generating pass rush. DeMarcus Walker was one of the few guys that was able to do it. He had 7 sacks last year. Now he goes to the Bears. That's a nice pickup for the Bears. Taylor Heineke goes to the Falcons, 2 years, $20 million. It appears that this is still a starter. I mean, $10 million a year is not what you pay. You know where you're going to start a starting quarterback for $10 million a year anyway. It's high end back of money anyway. Heineke is a good veteran leader, and he can step in when needed. If Fitzgerald will get hurt or struggles, you never know, maybe they'll draft somebody. We'll see what happens. Something that broke not too long ago, Jacoby Myers goes to the Raiders. 3 years, $33 million, $21 million guaranteed. It's a nice pickup for the Raiders, that offense is loaded. Obviously, you had Jimmy G yesterday, who in the right circumstances can be a solid starter. They tagged Josh Jacobs, who last year was a rushing champion. You have Devontae Adams there. No, by the way, he's posting all over social media. He kind of clarified saying, everything's okay. Hunter Renfrow, you have Waller, and now you had Myers. Oh my God. I thought Myers was, $11 million is probably what he's about what he's worth. But I thought he would probably get possibly more for 15, 16 million just because he's arguably the best receiver available in a very weak receiver market, so someone would overpay for his services. Got him for $11 million a year. Kudos to Dave Ziegler and the Raiders. I think nice pickup. He's a real good slot receiver. Eagles get done with Jason Kelsey. 1 year's $14.2 million. He's back in Philly. This dropped literally right before I went live. Raheem Mostert re-signed with the Dolphins. 2 years, $7.6 million. He had a really nice year for the Dolphins. Obviously fits the system perfectly. Played in McDaniel's offense in San Francisco as well when he was an offensive coordinator over there. So he's a nice fit over there. They bring him back. But I just want to clarify, the Bills who signed Connor McGovern is not the former New York Jets center, is the former left guard from the Dallas Cowboys. They gave him 3 years, $23 million. I want to clarify that. And the last thing I have for you guys, there's some possible rule changes in the NFL. Teams can pitch rule changes. The Eagles pitched possibly, instead of an onside kick, giving a team they can go on their own 20-yard line and convert a 4th and 20. The XFL is doing it, and I think the NFL should adopt this. They've been waiting for a couple of years now. I think it's time the onside kick, because guys can't get a running start anymore. it's almost impossible to get an onside kick. So I think this will make the game a little more exciting. Think about it. All right, let's say you're down by 2 touchdowns and you score a touchdown. You're down by a touchdown with like a minute left. Or let's say you're down by 10 with a minute left. You have to somehow get an onside kick. Score a quick touchdown. Go score quickly, get another onside kick, and then score again, which is literally impossible. There's like a 1% chance of that happening. Now, 4 from 20 for your own 20, that makes it somewhat doable. Still somewhat likely, but now I think that's more exciting than seeing a kicker just like kick the top of the ball so it spins weird and it goes 5 yards and a bunch of guys just try to just like jump on the ball. That's not very exciting. But 4 from 20 from your own 20-yard line, that's a little more exciting. I think that's a pretty good thing that they should do. We'll see what happens. The Chargers pitched that playoff seeding should go based off solely record. Like for example, like you had the 8-9 Bucks won the division, so they got to host the playoff, even though the Cowboys had four more wins than them. Tampa was the home team because they won their division. So they're saying like home field advantage in the playoffs should be based solely off record, not based off you win the division. And the Chargers recently probably pitched it because they entered the playoffs with 10 wins. Jaguars entered with 9, but Jaguars hosted the game because they won their division and Chargers didn't. And then the Niners pitched to allow an emergency quarterback to enter the game if the top 2 guys get hurt. So because we all know what happens in the NFC Championship game. You had Brock Purdy gets hurt, and then they had to put in Josh Johnson, but he was just so bad. So they went Brock Purdy, who literally couldn't throw a pass. But Brock Purdy with one arm was better than a healthy Josh Johnson. They put him back in, but if they had an emergency guy that might have been their best option, so they pitched that. I don't mind that one. I don't mind that one at all. You ever know, we could have some situation like we did with in hockey a few years ago. We had the Hurricanes goalie, who was like an emergency guy, who was like a stadium worker. He was a college goalie, who like worked for the team, but both their goalies got hurt, and they put him in his beliefs, and he played well, and they ended up win the game. The Rams pitched to review roughing the passer. After the Saints-Rams incident in the NFC Championship game, I think that was 2018. You had that egregious no call that should have been called, and the Rams Saints probably won that game. Would have probably beaten the Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. In 2019, they allowed it. They allowed you to review it. It didn't really work. It was not didn't really work, but also they only gave it 1 year. I didn't think they should have gotten rid of it, and they want that put back in. So those are the rule changes. Only other fancy rumor I have is that Alan Lazard tried to sign Alan Lazard. Also interested in Randall Cobb. Basically, they want Aaron Rodgers. By the way, Aaron Rodgers just say take something. Guy tweeted out "so" for no reason. At least, even if you're not going to play, we should break our hearts just to be screwed. At least tell us, tell the Jets so that they can so they could move on with their off season, and the Green Bay Packers for that matter. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Tomorrow will be my bracket special. I'll talk about some other stuff too. If there's any NFL free agency deals, I'm sure there will be. I'll talk about that as well. But I'll be revealing my bracket tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.